The boy's fingers were so cold they could barely hold the pencil. 6-year-old Marcus sat on the cracked linoleum floor of his mama's kitchen, shaping each word like it was made of glass. Outside, snow piled against the door they couldn't afford to replace. Inside, their breath turned to fog. The heater had been broken for 11 days. Marcus wasn't writing about toys. He was writing about survival. "Dear Santa," he began in careful letters, "my name is Marcus. I'm 6 years old. I know you're busy, but my mama needs help. She works 2 jobs, and she still cries at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. Our heater is broken, and the landlord won't fix it. All I want for Christmas is for my mama to be warm. Just warm, that's all." He folded the letter into a square and tucked it into his coat pocket. His teacher had told him about the big glass building downtown, the one with the golden letters. Whitmore Industries. She'd said important people worked there, people who made decisions that changed lives. Marcus figured if Santa was real, he'd work somewhere like that. Somewhere high up where he could see everything. Somewhere in a corner office where the powerful people sat. The next morning, Marcus and his mama walked past that building on the way to her first shift. She worked at the diner 6 blocks away, the one that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Marcus saw the mail slot by the revolving doors. Fancy and brass. The kind of slot that looked like it led somewhere important. When his mama turned to check the bus schedule, Marcus ran. He shoved the letter through the slot and whispered a prayer into the cold metal. "Please let someone find this. Please let someone care." Inside the tower, 30 floors above the street, Diane Martinez sorted the morning mail. She'd worked as executive assistant to CEO Jonathan Whitmore for 16 years. She knew the rhythm of this building like her own heartbeat. Bills, contracts, legal documents, the usual corporate noise. Then she saw it. A piece of notebook paper, folded wrong, addressed in crayon to Santa Claus, corner office. Diane's hands stopped moving. She unfolded the paper carefully. "My mama cries at night. We can see our breath inside our house. I just want her to be warm." Diane read it twice, then a third time. Her throat tightened. She looked at the clock. Mr. Whitmore's morning briefing started in 10 minutes. Protocol said discard non-business correspondence. But Protocol hadn't read this letter. She took the elevator to the 30th floor. Jonathan Whitmore stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the city like a king surveying his kingdom. At 58, he'd built an empire. Real estate, property management, investment portfolios. He'd made his fortune buying struggling apartment buildings and turning them profitable. He was good at numbers. He was terrible at people. "Mr. Whitmore," Diane said, "you need to see this." Jonathan turned, irritated at the interruption. "What is it?" Not a question. A dismissal. "It's a letter from a child. It came through our mail slot." Jonathan glanced at the red crayon, the wobbly handwriting. "This is a mistake. It shouldn't have reached my desk. Sir, please, just read it." Something in Diane's voice made him pause. He took the letter, scanned the first line, then stopped. "Read it again. Slower this time. My mama works 2 jobs and still cries at night. We don't have heat. The landlord won't fix it. All I want is for Mama to be warm." Jonathan's hands started shaking. Where did this come from? The external drop box. Someone must have thought that we could help. Jonathan walked to his desk and sat down heavily. He read the letter a third time. At the bottom, Marcus had drawn a picture, a small house with a sun over it, rays of warmth coming down like hope. Jonathan's vision blurred. This handwriting, this desperation. It reminded him of something he'd buried for 20 years. His daughter, Sarah, the one he'd lost to the streets because he'd been too busy building his empire to notice she was struggling with addiction. Too busy closing deals to see she needed him. Sarah had written him letters too. From rehab, from shelters, from jail. He'd filed them away. Told himself he'd respond later. He never did. She died alone in a hospital 3 years ago. He hadn't spoken to her in 5. The guilt lived in his chest like a second heartbeat. Now here was another child asking for help. Another chance he could ignore. Another life he could fail. "Find him," Jonathan said. "Sir? Find this boy, Marcus, and his mother." Diane straightened. "I'll need to make some calls. Our property management division handles rentals across the city. If the landlord won't fix the heat, it might be one of ours." Jonathan looked up. His eyes were red. "If it's one of our buildings and we ignored work orders, I want names. I want accountability. And I want it fixed today." 40 minutes later, Diane called back. Found them. Marcus Williams and his mother, Janelle. They rent a unit at 847 Parkside. That's Morrison Properties. We acquired them last year. There are 6 open work orders for heating repairs. All ignored. Jonathan stood so fast his chair rolled backward. "Get me the property manager. Now, sir, he's already on the line. Says the contractor kept. I don't care what he says. Tell him the heat gets fixed in the next 4 hours or he's fired. And give me the address." Jonathan grabbed his coat. Diane stood in the doorway. "Mr. Whitmore, are you going there?" "I am. Sir, wouldn't it be better to send?" "To send who? Social services? A check?" Jonathan shook his head. "This child wrote to Santa Claus asking for heat. That letter ended up on my desk. That makes it my responsibility. That's not how responsibility works." "Maybe it should be." Jonathan drove across the city in his Mercedes. The neighborhoods shifted from glass towers to brick row houses to forgotten streets with boarded windows. 847 Parkside sat at the end of a block that looked like hope had moved out years ago. The building was 3 stories, gray, with paint peeling like dead skin. Jonathan parked and stared. His company owned this. He'd signed the acquisition papers without ever seeing the property, without ever thinking about who lived here. He walked up the front steps. The lobby smelled like mildew and desperation. He checked the directory. Williams, Unit 2B. He climbed the stairs. The hallway was dark and cold. He knocked on the door marked 2B. Nothing. He knocked again. The door opened 6 inches. A woman stared at him through the gap. Mid-30s, but looking older. Dark circles under her eyes. Wearing a diner uniform and suspicion. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Are you Janelle Williams?" "Who's asking?" Jonathan pulled the letter from his coat. "Your son, Marcus. He wrote this." Janelle's eyes went wide. She snatched the letter through the gap. "Where did you get this? Did he do something wrong?" "No. God, no." Jonathan held up his hands. "He didn't do anything wrong. I'm Jonathan Whitmore. I own the company that owns this building. I'm here about the heat." Janelle's face hardened. The landlord said 3 weeks. "We don't need charity. This isn't charity. This is me fixing something I should have fixed months ago." Jonathan gestured to the apartment. "May I come in? Just for a minute." Janelle hesitated. Then she opened the door. The cold hit Jonathan like a fist. It was colder inside than outside. He could see his breath. In the corner, a small space heater glowed orange, fighting a losing battle. Blankets were piled on the couch. The oven door was open, offering what little warmth it could. "Jesus," Jonathan whispered. Janelle crossed her arms. "We're managing. You shouldn't have to manage." Jonathan looked around, saw the pride in the small apartment despite everything, saw the calendar on the wall with work shifts marked in different colors, saw Marcus's drawings taped to the refrigerator, houses with suns over them, all of them. This is unacceptable. The heat will be fixed today. I've already made the call. Why? Janelle asked. Why do you care? Because your son asked for help and somehow his letter found me. Jonathan met her eyes. And because I have a daughter, had a daughter. I lost her because I was too busy to notice she was drowning. I can't fix that, but I can make sure your son doesn't freeze. The door burst open. Marcus ran in, backpack bouncing. Mama, he stopped, saw Jonathan, saw the letter in his mother's hand. His eyes went huge. Are you? His voice dropped to a whisper. Are you Santa? Jonathan knelt down, getting on the boy's level. Hi, Marcus, I'm Jonathan. I got your letter. You're from the corner office? I am. Marcus launched himself forward, threw his arms around Jonathan's neck. Thank you for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jonathan froze. Then his arms came up. He held this child he didn't know and felt something crack open in his chest. The guilt, the grief, the desperate need to do something right for once. I'm going to help your mama, he whispered into Marcus's hair. I promise you're going to be warm. Marcus pulled back. His face was wet with tears. Can you help other kids too? Other kids whose mamas cry? Jonathan looked at Janelle. She was crying now too. Silent tears she tried to hide. He looked back at Marcus and saw Sarah, saw every child he'd failed by choosing profit over people. Yes, he said, yes, I think I can, but I need your help. Me? Marcus's eyes went wide. What can I do? You can tell me what kids need. What would make things better? Marcus thought hard. Heat. And food that's not just ramen. And maybe, he looked at his mama, maybe jobs that pay enough so mamas don't have to work too. Jonathan stood. He looked at Janelle. How much do you make? She stiffened. That's personal. I'm asking because I want to hire you. For what? Jonathan pulled out his phone. My company is expanding our community outreach division. We need someone who understands what it's like to actually live in these buildings. Someone who can tell us what needs fixing. You'd be perfect. I don't have a degree. I don't need a degree. I need someone who knows what matters. Janelle shook her head. This doesn't make sense. Rich men don't just show up offering jobs. They should. Jonathan put his phone away. Miss Williams, I've spent 20 years making money off buildings I never visited, off people I never met. Your son's letter reminded me that's not business, that's extraction. I want to do better. Let me start here. The contractor arrived an hour later. Jonathan stood in the apartment and watched them work. Marcus sat on the couch, wrapped in Jonathan's expensive coat, asking 1,000 questions. Why are you so tall? Do you have kids? What's your favorite color? Jonathan answered everyone. Janelle made coffee with the last of her grounds. They sat together in the cold apartment and waited for warmth. When the heat kicked on, Marcus screamed. He ran to the vent and put his hands over it. Mama, feel this? It's hot. It's really hot." Janelle knelt beside him, both of them holding their hands over the vent like it was a miracle. Jonathan watched from the doorway. Diane called, "The heat's working?" "Yes." "Good, sir, there's something else." "What?" I pulled the records. "We own 43 buildings in this district. They all have similar complaints: ignored work orders, deferred maintenance." Jonathan closed his eyes. "Fix all of them." "Sir, you heard me. Every building, every work order. I don't care what it costs. Get it done." There was a pause. "Mr. Whitmore, are you all right?" "No, Diane, I'm not." "But maybe I can be." Jonathan hung up, turned back to the apartment. Marcus was dancing now, spinning in circles in front of the heating vent. Janelle was crying again, happy tears this time. "Thank you," she said to Jonathan. "You don't know what this means." Jonathan shook his head. "I do know. That's the problem. I've always known. I just didn't care enough to act." He looked at Marcus. "Your son reminded me that letters to Santa aren't about toys. They're about hope, about believing someone powerful will use their power for good. I want to be worthy of that belief." 3 months later, Jonathan stood in a community center his company had just opened. The room was packed. Families from the 43 buildings, children running between tables, hot meals being served. Janelle stood at his side. She wore a professional blazer now, Director of Community Relations. She'd helped design this space, helped hire the staff, helped make sure every voice was heard. Marcus ran up with a drawing. "Look, I made this for you." Jonathan knelt down. The picture showed 2 figures, one tall, one small, both smiling. The words said, "Thank you for being Santa." "Who's the tall one?" Jonathan asked. "That's you." "And the small one?" "That's me, but I'm going to be tall someday. And when I am, I'm going to help kids like you helped me." Jonathan felt his throat close. "You're already helping, Marcus, just by being you." Marcus grinned and ran off. Janelle touched Jonathan's shoulder. "You okay?" Jonathan watched Marcus join the other children. "I will be. This." He gestured to the room. "This is what corner offices should be for." Janelle smiled. "You're learning. I had a good teacher." That night, Jonathan sat in his office. 30 floors up, corner windows looking down at the city. But for the first time in 20 years, he didn't feel separate from it. He pulled Marcus's letter from his desk drawer. The red crayon was faded now from handling. He'd had it framed. It hung on his wall next to his degrees and awards. A reminder. All I want is for Mama to be warm. His phone buzzed. A text from Janelle. "Marcus wants to know if you're coming to his school play next week." Jonathan smiled. He typed back, "I'll be in the front row." The response came immediately. "He's going to be so happy." Then another message. "Thank you for showing up, for being the Santa he believed in." Jonathan looked at the letter again, at the drawing of the house with the sun, at a 6-year-old's hope that someone powerful would care. He thought about Sarah, about all the letters he'd ignored, all the chances he'd missed. He couldn't bring her back, couldn't undo 20 years of choosing wrong. But he could choose different now. He could show up. He could be warm. The city sparkled below him. Millions of lives, millions of stories, some of them happening in buildings he owned, in apartments where children drew pictures of warmth, in homes where mothers cried at night. He couldn't fix everything, but he could fix something, one letter at a time, one family at a time. one choice at a time. Jonathan turned off his office lights, took the elevator down, drove home through streets that felt less foreign now. In his house, he sat at his kitchen table and pulled out paper. Not corporate letterhead, plain notebook paper. He picked up a pen, then put it down and grabbed a red crayon instead. "Dear Sarah," he wrote, "I'm sorry I didn't show up. I'm sorry I chose everything else over you. I can't fix that. But I'm trying to be different now. I'm trying to be the father you needed for other people's children, because someone has to. Because a 6-year-old taught me that corner offices are for helping, not hiding." He wrote until his hand cramped. Wrote things he should have said when Sarah was alive. Then he folded the letter, drove to the cemetery, placed it on her grave beside the flowers he now brought every week. "I'm trying," he whispered to the cold stone. "I'm finally trying." The wind picked up, scattered snow across the graves. Jonathan didn't leave, just stood there in the cold, letting himself feel it, letting himself remember what it meant to be human. A week later, he sat in the front row of Marcus's school auditorium. The play was about community helpers. Marcus played a construction worker. He delivered his lines with serious concentration. Afterward, he ran to Jonathan. "Did you see me? Did you see? I saw everything. You were perfect." Marcus hugged him. Then Janelle appeared. She smiled. "You showed up?" "Always," Jonathan said. "From now on, I always show up." They walked out together, the three of them. Not a family, not exactly, but something close. Something built on a child's hope and an adult's decision to be worthy of it. In Jonathan's pocket, he carried a new letter. Another child from another building, this one asking for shoes, for a winter coat, for help with homework. He'd answer this one, too, and the next one, and the one after that. Because Santa, he'd learned, wasn't magic. Santa was just someone with power who decided to use it for good. Someone who showed up, someone who remembered that corner offices weren't thrones, they were watchtowers, and the only thing worth watching for was children who needed warmth. Marcus had taught him that a 6-year-old with a red crayon and hope bigger than the winter sky. And Jonathan Whitmore, CEO, 58 years old, was finally learning to be warm